Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on this Tuesday from the Star in Frisco, Texas. It is day number one of Big 12 football media days. It is Talkin season, and we're talking football on this edition of 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas. It's 580 WIBW FM 104.9 online at 580WIBW.com, on your phone on the MSC Radio app, and on your YouTube channel, our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of that channel. And again, thrilled to be with you on this Tuesday. My name is Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis back at the ranch up on the Huntoon Hill Studios, and we'll be hearing from him throughout the program today as well. It is day one of Big 12 football media days, and I think Spencer's back there right now by the mic. Spencer, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Spencer. Good to have you. Spencer, would you like a Monster Energy?
Can I get one for the rest of my life? Is it going to be at every single stadium in the media rooms? Because I hope so.
Well,
I don't
know about
I'm kidding.
that. I can't swear to that. I can just tell you that Monster Energy has made a significant investment into Big 12 athletics to the point where there is no more Big 12 football, folks. There's no more Big 12 football. Big 12 football has ceased to exist. It's Monster Energy Big 12 football now. I'm not making that up. Part of me kind of wishes I was, but I'm not making that up. It is Monster Energy Big 12 football, and this is Monster Energy Big 12 football media days. And if I'm going to give them all that pub, I'd like a check. I mean, because product doesn't do anything for me. I'm not an energy drink guy. I've had one Monster Energy in my life, and that was enough to know that I didn't need a second. But if they're going to stamp their name on everything, I'd like a cut if I'm going to go along and be a company man and do the whole Monster Energy Big 12 Football Media Days thing for the next 2 days here at the Star in Frisco, Texas. So I will say this, Spencer, if you were here, if you were seated next to me right now, you would be looking at the Monster Energy Lounge. You would be looking at coolers full of Monster Energy. I think whatever flavor. Do you like the American flag joint? Do you like the
I honestly have not
Monster?
I've not had Monster Energy in dang near probably 8 years since I was in college. Maybe I guess 7, studying for finals up all night at the library. I had a Monster or two back in college, but since then, no, I don't partake in the Monster.
Brendan in the live chat on YouTube says, Dan, chug a Monster on-air challenge. I'm going to tell you what, I might need one tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be the day that the rubber really meets the road.
Yeah.
In years past, and we've mentioned this on the show leading up to Big 12 Media Days this year, in years past they have split it where Kansas goes on one day and Kansas State goes on the next day. That's not how it worked out this year. Apparently both Colin Klein and Lance Leipold requested to go on day 2, and the conference granted that particular request for both coaches, which was not very thoughtful to the media members from the state of Kansas, like me, who instead of having one day to talk to KU folks and one day to talk to K-State folks, now we got to cram all of that into one day. And look, it's a bit of a rookie mistake from Colin Klein. I think he'll learn. It was just, his first media days as a head coach, and he'll learn and he'll get better from the experience and be much more considerate of me. I'm sure that will be top of mind next year is how I feel about things. But in all seriousness, tomorrow's going to be the day where you get to hear from Lance Leipold, Colin Klein, Avery Johnson, the stars for both Kansas and Kansas State. We're going to talk to all of those folks tomorrow. So this is a bit of a different sounding first day of Big 12 football media days. Day 2 will be full of coach and player interviews. Then, of course, because we're only on for 2.5 hours the next couple of days here, we're going to have plenty of spillover content for the next week or so from this event. But tomorrow will be the day I'm going to desperately need the infusion that maybe only the Monster Energy folks can provide me. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. If you're really wanting the Chug a Monster challenge, Brendan, you might tune in tomorrow, and we'll see what we can make work.
But I think it'd be cool if Monster Energy partnered with all the Big 12 schools and created cans with all the Big 12 logos on them. I don't know, just a thought, just a branding thought here.
Idea man, Spencer Dupuis over here. I can run that up the flagpole. Like I said, I'm very adjacent on Radio Row. I'm on the front row of Radio Row, and the Monster Energy folks are just like, I can tell you exactly how far away. 15 yards, because I'm on the front of the end zone at one end of the star, and the Monster Energy folks are sitting at the 15-yard line. So I can tell you exactly how far away they are from me. I'll run that idea up the old flagpole. But anyhow, it is day one of Big 12 Football Media Days here on 580 Sports Talk. We have some interviews we're going to bring you on today's show. And as I mentioned, we're with you for just 2.5 hours today, not the usual 3. The Royals are on the East Coast, so we'll break away at 5:30 for pregame coverage from the Royals Radio Network as the Royals play game 1 of a 3-game series at Citi Field in Queens against the New York Mets. And those two teams can have a disappointment off this week. Two teams whose seasons did not unfold the way they were expecting and the way I was expecting. Everybody knows I picked the Royals to win the American League Central. I picked the Mets to win the World Series. I don't know why people listen to me when I make baseball projections. I just should have said the Dodgers, like everybody else in the world said. I wanted to be different, and I ended up sounding really stupid. So I'll learn a lesson from that, maybe. Probably not. If I was going to learn that lesson, I would have probably learned it a long time ago. But the Royals and the Mets tonight, game 1 of that 3-game series at Citi Field. First pitch tonight is scheduled for 6:10. It is Seth Lugo on the bump for the Royals. I'm showing TBD for the Mets. I haven't seen their lineup yet, so but that is coming up. So we're done at 5:30 today. So we've got a lot of content to cram into these 3 hours. You're going to hear from 3 guests on the program today. One of them is our usual Monday guest. Our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, is going to join the program. Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated, SI.com. He will join us coming up at the bottom of this hour. We'll talk NFL with our NFL insider. He'll join us via the phone on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Then coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, got a conversation for you with a former radio personality well known in our area, now the proprietor of the Open for Business newsletter and YouTube channel that's all about the Big 12. That is John Kurtz. Sat down with him earlier this afternoon to have a chat, and John is all about the Big 12, has some great insight to give you about the conference, where things stand, and some thoughts on Kansas and Kansas State as well. Speaking of the Jayhawks, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Michael Swain's going to join me live from Big 12 Football Media Days here in Frisco, Texas. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. His plane got on the ground about an hour ago, and just saw him about 15 minutes ago, right before we went on air here. So he's going to pop by at 4:35 for Jayhawk Weekly. We'll get Michael's thoughts. Again, we haven't heard from any Jayhawks yet. They all talk tomorrow, but I guess we'll kind of get a preview of what we might hear from the Kansas contingent tomorrow on Big 12 Football Media Day. So Michael Swain coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. So we're jam-packed with guests today, but we'll still get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines, which is really just going to be my opportunity on an extended World Cup roundup to excoriate Team USA for the lights were brighter than expected performance against Belgium in the round of 16 in the World Cup last night. Boy, you talk about a pratfall. And we'll get into that when it comes to headlines. We got What Is Wrong With You. We'll do a little bit of Random Question Tuesday later on as well. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of the program today. Want to hear from you. Text line is open. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. You can also get in on the live chat on YouTube. I can see the live chat today. Mention Brendan's in the chat today. Christopher, Mark H., Vance in the chat as well. Excited to see you, gentlemen, and look forward to hearing from more of you. Jump in that live chat, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. I was joking with John Kurtz earlier today. We got a long way to go on the YouTube channel to catch up with his subscriber numbers, so you can help get us one step closer to John Kurtz, a YouTube sensation, by subscribing to the YouTube channel today, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Again, does not cost you anything but a click or a tap of your screen. We're working on our next 1,000 after exceeding 1,000 subscribers last week. So 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. This is day one of Big 12 football media days, and we have heard today in the building from the contingents from Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, UCF, Colorado, Houston, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. Other half of the league, of course, including Kansas and Kansas State, will be here tomorrow. Because it was day one, we also heard from Brett Yormark, the commissioner of the Big 12 Conference. And obviously, when Yormark takes the stage, his primary goal in his press conference is not as much to deliver maybe a state of the Big 12, but in a way that is what he is doing. It's a promotional, really, for the good things that are happening in the conference, the excitement that the conference has about what occurred last year and what they're looking forward to occurring in 2026 and 27. Events including the Union Jack Classic, the first ever playing of a college football game at Wembley Stadium in London. That will, of course, feature the Kansas Jayhawks and the Arizona State Sun Devils. Quick aside about this that I didn't know. Arizona State's opening a campus in London, and that's happening in September, so it kind of neatly coincides with Arizona State playing a football game in London. But Arizona State is not the home team, crucially, in that game. It'll be Kansas, willing to give away a home game this year, of course, because of the ongoing renovations at their home stadium. So Arizona State has a campus in London.
That's crazy.
I'm struggling with that, to be honest with you. I think about London, I think about England. You know, you think about higher learning, right? You think about Oxford, you think about Cambridge. You don't necessarily think about Arizona State.
Well, and typically
in that same way, let's just say. But I guess it's a new way to consider Arizona State. Arizona State at London. I don't know what they're going to call it. I don't know that they'll be in the next CFB 27 video game. The Arizona State at London, but yeah, that's a thing that's happening and that I had no idea about until today. I learned all kinds of stuff at Big 12 Football Media Days. But the one big takeaway from Brett Yormark's press conference was not actually anything that he said. It was not his opening remarks. It was nothing from that. It was what he had to say to the first question that was asked to him. It came from a reporter covering Texas Tech, and it had to do with the former Texas Tech quarterback. Though, can we call him the former Texas Tech quarterback if he never actually suited up for the Red Raiders? Anyway, Brendan Sorsby, you know who I'm talking about. Maybe you've seen his name in the news and know why that might be a story of interest and a question of interest to open up Big 12 Football Media Days. And Brett Yormark made it extremely clear. We ain't talking about that today. I don't have the official transcript of his answer to the reporter. He was very kind to the reporter. He thanked him for the question. He appreciated that the reporter was asking the question. Understood, I'm sure, part of the gig, that a question like that, probably multiple questions like that, were on deck for him today, and he shut it down on the spot and said that's not effectively, it's not what today is for. And you can quibble with his decision that today is not for that. I think a lot of people that are here today anticipated that at least some of today would be about that. It's kind of unavoidable. I mean, Texas Tech's players are in the building. Joey McGuire took to the podium earlier today. The Brendan Sorsby story does loom over at the bare minimum this first day of Big 12 Football Media Days, and that in itself is not avoidable. But Brett Yormark made it clear. That's not what we're here for. That's not what I'm here to discuss. And he framed it in the sense of, we're here to celebrate the 16 programs and the upcoming season, and to a certain degree that makes a lot of sense. But the unsaid answer from Brett Yormark in shutting down that line of questioning in its tracks was, Brett Yormark, I consider the Brendan Sorsby saga to be a dead issue. I think this is done and resolved, and we're moving forward. The conference did what it had to do. The decision was made that was in the best interest of everybody involved, and we're moving on. We'll see you on the field in August and September. And I'm inclined to understand and maybe be sympathetic to where Yormark is coming from in that regard. But I do wonder if everybody here agrees with the idea of the Brendan Sorsby saga as a dead issue, particularly the Texas Tech contingent. You wonder if they consider it to be an entirely dead issue. You sense that it probably isn't for them, that there are still some hurt feelings. There's a big story, a well-reported story and well-sourced story at ESPN.com today about the whole situation, and I need to find the quote that capped off the article, but it was very clear that there are still some hurt feelings. At the bare minimum, still some hurt feelings on the Texas Tech side. The quote that closes the feature, and you should read it, it's at ESPN.com today. The Texas Tech source in the closing quote, it's an unnamed source, but the quote is, "These things leave scars." So it may be dead and buried and settled in Brett Yormark's eyes, or he might like it to be dead and buried and settled, but I don't think that that's an assessment that would be entirely agreed upon by the contingent arriving from Lubbock today. So it could have been a bit contentious. Brett Yormark threw water on the fire immediately, and that was that. I mean, that was the end of that line of questioning. Nobody else dared at that point to challenge Brett Yormark's assertion, implicit if not explicit, that I'm not going to take any more questions and I'm not going to talk any more publicly, at least for now, about this. There's still some question marks in the air. Like, is the legal matter, like, has that been entirely resolved? Like, the stuff that's in the courts, has that been entirely resolved, or where does all of that go? But as far as Brett Yormark is concerned, the Brendan Sorsby saga is done and dusted, and there is no bigger takeaway on this, the first day of Big 12 football media days, than that. It was an interesting media day today because, to be frank, a lot of the teams that are headliners in this conference for different reasons were here today. With due respect to tomorrow's attendees, which again include the contingents from Kansas and Kansas State, among today's attendees are the presumptive favorite to win the conference, Texas Tech, and, of course, the team that dominated the headlines in the offseason for a second straight year. You have everybody's favorite upstart/surprise team, to the point where I don't even know if they qualify as an upstart anymore, but Houston was here today with their head coach Willie Fritz and a 5-player contingent. You have BYU, who's probably everybody's second favorite pick behind Texas Tech to win the league. If you're submitting your poll, and for the second straight year, the Big 12 did not ask the media's opinion on how the league would finish. But had they done a media poll, you can probably wager a guess, no pun intended, towards Texas Tech. But you could probably have guessed that Texas Tech would be the favorite and BYU would probably have been second. BYU was here today. Oklahoma State, maybe the most fascinating team in this league. What is that going to look like with their new head coach, Eric Morris, basically importing one of the best offenses in the country at North Texas over to Stillwater? Can they have the kind of turnaround that we've seen in some other places, most notably at Indiana, with a coach bringing a successful roster almost in whole from a winner at the group of 5 or the G6 level now and bringing it to a Power 4 school? So Oklahoma State is an extremely fascinating team this year. Arizona State won the league 2 years ago. They're a fascinating team. And Kenny Dillingham and his contingent were here today. Colorado was here today. And they're always going to be, as long as Deion Sanders is their head coach, a headline team in this league. And I want to say this real quick as it pertains to Colorado. Last couple of years at this thing, Deion Sanders has made himself extremely scarce. The old hoodies or the slogan he has, the "I ain't hard to find," that was in no way true of Deion Sanders at Big 12 football media days the last 2-3 years. He has done his podium obligation and he has done his other obligations, and he has been out of here. He has left skid marks leaving the media days. That has not been the case. In fact, he's walking right by my table right now. So, as if to illustrate my point, Deion Sanders is still here. He's walking toward Radio Row. This is the first time, I'm not kidding, in Deion Sanders' 4-year tenure at Colorado that I've seen him at Radio Row. And he looks healthy, hale, hearty, spry, whatever adjectives you want to use. I know he's dealt with obviously some horrible health concerns the last couple of years, but you would not know it watching Deion Sanders stride confidently around Big 12 media days. Now, what that means for Colorado football is, to be determined, but I do find it to be fascinating. And I've been accused over the years, and probably fairly, for being a bit of a hater when it comes to the Coach Prime experience, and it's not like there hasn't been anything to criticize. I think a lot of my criticism has been rooted in fairness. But I'll say this, man, this is year 2 of no sons on the team. His sons, Shador and Shiloh and Travis, all have graduated, all have moved on to greener pastures. Nobody on the way, right? There's no up-and-coming younger Sanders about to impact the roster. He's really now in this because he wants to win football games at the University of Colorado. There's always going to be an element with Deion where it's about Deion, but at the same time, there is an element of altruism you can assign to Sanders in this space in his coaching tenure that you could not have done the first 2 years of his time there at Colorado. And it's fascinating to see him enjoying himself and being a part of this event in a way that he really hadn't been the past 3 years. So I give him credit for that. It looks like he's healthy, which is, from a human standpoint, you hope that he's moved past those health challenges of the last couple of years. He's spoken and said that he feels much better than he has in years, and you're happy for him from the human perspective 100%. Again, what that's going to mean for Colorado football, we'll see. They looked like a well-coached football team last year, and lost a ton of games and lost some games in blowout fashion. So they got a long way to go, but I just thought that was another noteworthy aspect of the Big 12 media days today. We'll step aside for a break here on 580 Sports Talk. I want to hear from you on the live chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, and on the text line, 785-272-9429. If you've got some Big 12 football questions, we'll be happy to answer those, get your other thoughts on everything going on. In about 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk to Matt Verderame, our NFL insider. Quick detour into the world of professional football with Matt. Usually joins us on Mondays. Unable to join us yesterday, but he'll join us today on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. John Kurtz of Open for Business and Michael Swain of Fog.net joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. And again, we're off early at 5:30 for Royals baseball today. Thanks so much for being with us. We're going to take our first time out. Come right back with more 580 Sports Talk after this. 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday. Dan Lucero live at the Star in Frisco, Texas for day one of Monster Energy Big 12 Football Media Days 2026. Spencer Dupuis holding it down back at our Huntoon Hill studios in the capital city of Kansas. The day one participants, again, Big 12 Media Days, Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, UCF, Colorado, Houston, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. Tomorrow, Kansas and Kansas State will be here. Lance Leipold and Colin Klein will do podium availability, and then we will anticipate and hope that we're able to get FaceTime with not just coaches Leipold and Klein, but also the player contingents, and a reminder of who those players are in case you have forgotten. Kansas has brought 5 players to Frisco. Offensive tackle Calvin Clements, former Lawrence Free State standout. Defensive end Leroy Harris. Defensive tackle Blake Harold. Linebacker Trey Lathan. And wide receiver Cameron Pickett are also here representing the Jayhawks. For K-State, it's a 4-player contingent. Couple of Kansas kids. Quarterback Avery Johnson and defensive back Wesley Fair. Running back Joe Jackson and linebacker Rex Van Wy also here on behalf of the Cats. And again, we will talk to hopefully all 9 of those players. We'll be crunched for time in a way that we almost never have been before here at Media Days, but that's what we're going to try to do on tomorrow's program. Today we got John Kurtz from Open for Business, and we've got Michael Swain, Fog.net, will join us live at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Matt Verderame coming up here in just a little bit. I want to say this on behalf of, I gave Texas Tech a bit of a hard time in the opening segment and have given them a hard time over the last month or so. But I'll say this for Joey McGuire. I think he's on the right side of history. I think he's on the right side of this opinion. Big 12 is pushing for a bigger playoff. I don't know that I agree with that. First and foremost, I don't know that I'm wild about a 24-team playoff.
Me neither.
Further watering down the regular season of college football. But at this point, it's already probably watered down to the greatest extent it can be, and I'm not sure that 24 is any worse than 12 or 16 or even 8 would have been. College football forfeited what made it special, and there's no getting it back. And at this point, you may as well just make the tent as big as possible. It would certainly benefit the Big 12. And Joey McGuire was quick to point that out. And he said during his podium availability today, look, there would have been 5 Big 12 teams in a 24-team tournament last year based on the final top 25 playoff rankings. But this is what Joey McGuire, I think, is the most correct about. He said, and I'm paraphrasing from Brett McMurphy, who quoted him on X earlier today. I'm ready to get the national championship back around New Year's Day. This sport is not supposed to be played on January 25th. We need the power brokers of this sport to think along those same lines, because it is ridiculous to have college football the same week or weekend as the divisional playoffs. in the NFL. It gets to be, when the NFL games get such high stakes, college football gets to be a little bit out of sight, out of mind. You have to finish the season in a reasonable proximity to the end of your regular season, and college football has failed to do that. And I hope that there are a lot of like-minded coaches and administrators out there like Joey McGuire who believe that however big we end up making this playoff, there's no reason we should be playing college football at the end of January. Even if you can't get the national title on New Year's Day, maybe at least the semifinal, quarterfinals, at least something. Got to take back New Year's Day. That was college football's day for years and years and years, and well before even my consciousness of knowing about the sport. And I would like to get back to that. And I hope that Joey McGuire is a coach who's in a position to be a very outsized, influential voice in college football if his Red Raiders continue to have the success that they have had in the Big 12, which is to say they won the league last year. Maybe they'll win 2 league championships. Wouldn't that be something? But he has an opportunity to be a real power broker in college football if his program ends up being the signature program in this league. So be fascinated to see if his voice carries moving forward. We're going to take another time out here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk to Matt Verderame. He's our NFL insider. He usually joins us on Mondays, but he's going to join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. When we come back, we'll talk a little pro football on this Big 12 Media Days Tuesday on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. But before we go to break, I want a quick word about my friends at Calhoun's Jewelers. I bought my wedding ring at Calhoun's Jewelers, bought my wife's wedding band, engagement ring there as well. And what I still remember fondly about the process all these years later was how easy it felt. It's a daunting task. Anybody who's ever bought a ring, chosen a ring, knows how daunting the task can be. The friendly staff at Calhoun's Jewelers makes it feel small, makes it feel approachable, makes it feel manageable, and they help you find the ring that's just right for you and your significant other. So I cannot say enough how much I enjoyed that experience, and I know you will too. For any jewelry occasion, go see my friends at Calhoun's Jewelers. More 580 Sports Talk. Matt Verderame next. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline by Matt Verderame, our NFL insider on 580 Sports Talk. Matt covers the league for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also appears on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network. And, of course, you can subscribe to his Patreon, the Matt Verderame Show. Matt, well, I am live today at Big 12 Football Media Days at the Star in Frisco, Texas. So I have to ask you, did you have a favorite college football team growing up?
You know, not really. I grew up in the Northeast, grew up in New York, and college football was certainly big. Not like there's no real team in New York you're sitting there rooting hard. I would say Notre Dame is probably the most popular team. It's kind of team I loosely followed. I don't know a single soul alive outside of Syracuse. So, yeah, certainly a sport of interest, but not one that was like really regional out there.
Do you have a favorite player or a guy who captured the imagination, or was it really just kind of like, because I can understand, the Northeast kind of being a bit of an isolated college football territory, not a lot of year after year successful winning programs out there.
For me, the guy growing up was Reggie Bush. Like I love, even though I wasn't a USC fan, I loved watching the Bush. I mean, they were such a power. I remember watching that Rose Bowl game in 06 against Texas. To me, it's maybe the greatest football game I've ever seen, start to finish, in college or pro. Those are, of all the guys, Bush is the guy that stands out to me. He was just unbelievable. For people who didn't see him, it was like any time he had the ball, you didn't know what was going to happen. He was probably my favorite player to watch growing up in college.
Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated is our NFL insider here on 580 Sports Talk. Joins us typically Mondays at this time, but moved into Tuesday this week here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Matt, we talked a little bit last week on the show. Ben Solak of ESPN put together a list of some bold predictions he's willing to make here at the beginning of July, because we're going to have training camps open here before we know it here at the end of the month.
Yep.
But made the bold prediction that he thinks the Chiefs will miss the playoffs this year. And rather than go line by line in his reasoning, I think we're going to see a lot more of that from some of the football the football experts, the pundits out there. I think that'll be a more popular stance to take, certainly, than it had been in any other year of the Patrick Mahomes era. What is the rejoinder? What is the thing to feel most confident about when it comes to this Chiefs roster? The thing that you can feel even a month out of training camp most confident, feeling like this is the thing that's going to make them a contender for an AFC playoff spot?
Look, I mean, the thing that's scary about it is the answer is Mahomes. But he's coming off of 2 torn knee ligaments. I understand. I don't want to say no Ben, but I spend time with him. We hang out sometimes. We run to each other at training camp tours. And, I know him enough to know that he's a thoughtful guy. And I can understand why he feels that way. I don't necessarily feel that way. Not that it would be absolutely stunning. Not that it's a crazy opinion. Look, I think if Mahomes is healthy, they're a playoff team. But I will say this about the Chiefs. I understand that opinion based on the idea that, look, they are going to need some of these younger guys. And I don't just mean the rookies, although the rookies are included here, but the guys on rookie contracts, they need to step up and play better, period. Like, they need Xavier Worthy, and it wasn't his fault last year, he got hurt. They need Xavier Worthy to come out and be a factor this year. They need him to be what he was the back half of his rookie season. They need Rashee Rice to stop getting in the police blotter and show up and play football and be all in on every play, not just the plays where he's the first option. They need Josh Simmons to be there. They need him to be there. Like, he can't go AWOL for a month. They need him on the field. When he was on the field last year, it was awesome. But he didn't show up for a month. They can't have this kind of stuff. And to my eye, if they are that, if they show up, they're accountable, some of these rookies like Delane, maybe an R. Mason Thomas or Woods, they make a real impact. I think the Chiefs are right there in the AFC. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the conference that you'd look at and say, oh, that team's just clearly the best team. Like, the Chiefs could be as good as any teams. But there is also a world where Rice doesn't focus and Worthy doesn't step up. And Kelsey is 37, and all of a sudden you're sitting there going, well, I got a problem. But yeah, I mean, look, the biggest redeeming hope, they have the best quarterback in the world. And if that guy's healthy and plays like it, they're going to be really good.
You mentioned the rookie class, because I think the last time that we were here with the Chiefs, like feeling like, okay, they have been knocked off of their perch in the AFC, and it wasn't quite the same. It wasn't quite as precipitous a tumble as we're talking about coming off of 6-11 and Mahomes is hurt. But going back to that year, they lost to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game. You're feeling like, okay, well, maybe they've been surpassed here. The bounce back to the top of the conference came along with a terrific rookie class. That rookie class of 2022 was so impactful, and like the class of 2026, it contained 2 first-round picks. So is it maybe not so out of line to think that the class of 26 could have, if not the identical impact of the class of 22, but a similar galvanizing impact where you're talking about guys who really lift the talent level of this team, not just from the number 6 overall pick in the draft, but really across that list of drafted players from 2026?
Look, they're going to need that similar impact. And look, that class was ridiculous. I mean, that class had everybody basically contributing immediately. They don't need that, but Nance Worth-Delane's got to step in and be a really good corner now, not in 2 years from now. And I think he will be. But look, I wrote a draft profile up for us. I thought he was a top 5 player in the draft before they took him. I mean, I think very highly of him. But they need Peter Woods or R. Mason Thomas to be a pass rusher now, not in 3 years. They need an Emmett Johnson or Jaden Canny, one of those guys, to be a factor. Doesn't have to be an all-pro. Doesn't have to even be a pro, but like meaningful. Could Cyrus Allen, by some miracle, give them something? Because right now, they just don't have the roster that they used to have. But to your point, coming out of 2021, a lot of people felt like, man, they just lost Tyrann Mathieu, Travarius Ward, and Tyreek Hill. It's over. And then that team ripped off 2 straight titles and went to 3 straight Super Bowls. So I don't think it's over by any means. I mean, they're probably, at the turn, if you will, with Mahomes' career. But they need those guys to step up. And the one thing I would say, too, is, look, that time period back then, he was a lot better. Baltimore was a lot better. Cincinnati was really good. Buffalo was at the peak of its powers. The AFC right now, I just finished sitting down doing the SI preview and doing the predictions for the AFC side of it. You could pick like one of 8 teams to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, you could really sit there and pick almost 2 teams out of every division that you could say, yeah, that team could go to the Super Bowl, and it wouldn't be insane. So it's just going to be about how they develop, how they stay healthy, and look, they'll have a shot, but they've got to hit some things.
We're joined by Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated, here on the Fleming's Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, you mentioned back a few years ago when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. There's always been rumblings of him potentially coming back, maybe later in the season, but there's now some reporting from James Palmer that he might not even be cleared to play at all this season. Are you hearing any of the similar things, and is that potentially something that could be not allowing him to play this year as he's in his 30s recovering from a knee injury as opposed to being in your 20s?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a major injury, right? Anybody who saw the game that night against the Jets remembers. I mean, his leg was a 90-degree ankle. So this was always going to be something that kept him out at least a portion of the season. And there were some people in the NFL who felt like, look, he's not going to get signed until he shows that he can legitimately go out and play. And that might not be until late in the year, and maybe not even until next year. I do think that's absolutely on the table. And James is on top of that stuff. He's an excellent reporter. And I think, with Tyreek Hill, listen, if you're him, you don't want to rush back here. The last thing you want to do is come back from this injury and look terrible. And then everybody's going to sit there and go, well, he's old and he's hurt and it's over. The reality is, I think it's more likely than not that he's out for the whole regular season. Maybe he can come back and play in the playoffs, or some team just be a hired gun, so to speak. But I think it's tough. That's a major. I mean, if you're 26, that's a major injury, let alone you're 30. So, look, I would not plan on him being a major part of anybody's offense this year. At most, at best, maybe he's an additive in a playoff game and you're hoping to get a handful of plays. But right now, that's really up in the air.
Couple more questions for Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. He's our NFL insider here on 580 Sports Talk, appearing with us a day later than usual, but never a dollar short, of course, on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt, Terrion Arnold was released by the Detroit Lions after it came to light that he has a bit of a legal situation that has him facing some felony charges that could carry with them up to a life sentence in prison. So he is no longer a Detroit Lion. The Lions cutting ties with the former first-round pick 2 years into his NFL career. My question for you is, how do you explain the teams that were calling and trying to sign Arnold and gauge his availability, to which the legal process would not allow him to be available to practice for any team because they only made allowances for him to go work out in Detroit with the Lions, and he's not a Lion anymore. So how do you account for NFL teams being interested in a guy like Terrion Arnold facing the charges that he's facing?
Generational insanity, mostly. You know what? I say this all the time, and I think sometimes people think it's nuts, but it's true. It's because there are only so many players in the world that, in fact, so many people in the world that can be NFL players. That it's so hard to find anybody who's got the athleticism, the makeup, the physicality to do that job. That anyone, I mean, look, if Henry Ruggs had been released, if he had gotten parole, some team absolutely would have called him and worked out. Like, it's just the way the league works. And it's the ugly part of the business, but it's true. I mean, it's just the reality of it. I think with Terrion Arnold, he has not been great this time. Like, forget even the legal stuff. Like, this is on the field. He's just been kind of a guy. He's had some injuries. But, you know, teams are going to keep tabs. They're going to see what happens. Obviously, right now, he's got a major legal situation on his hands. But if he ends up getting cleared or something happens where he becomes, you know, legally available, so to speak, yeah, I mean, I would some team will absolutely give him a shot because that's what the NFL does. If you can play at the NFL level and you are with your freedom, you're going to get a look. And it's, you know, it's ugly at times, it's unseemly, but it is reality.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com, appears on That Football Show on the KC Sports Network, has his own Patreon, The Matt Verderame Show, and appears with us every week, typically on Mondays, today on this Tuesday, here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, it is always a pleasure. We'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Sounds good. Take care.
That is Matt Verderame. We'll take a timeout, come back, and put a wrap on this first hour of 580 Sports Talk live from the Star at Frisco, Texas for Monster Energy Big 12 Football Media Days. Welcome back on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you on this Tuesday. I'm coming to you live from Big 12 Football Media Days at the Star in Frisco, Texas. This is a true story, Spencer. You're not going to believe what an idiot you might believe what an idiot your co-host is. People who listen to the show know that I get the day wrong pretty much on a daily basis on the show. Like, I get the day of the week wrong, so maybe they won't be surprised by this story, but I'm going to tell it anyway, even though it's kind of an embarrassing one. So I was packing for this trip, and I typed in Frisco to look up the weather for what it was going to be in Frisco, Texas, just making sure, is it going to have any rain, or what's the weather going to be like? What's the weather situation in Frisco?
Always going to do that.
And I see temperatures in the 60s and 70s and overnight lows in the mid-40s. And I'm thinking, wow, that's unseasonable Texas weather for early July. That's wild. Well, I'm not expecting that, but, I'm going to be indoors most of the time. But, boys, for the mornings, I probably got to have a jacket. So I threw a jacket in my bag. And it is 99 degrees here today. Do you know what I did? I looked at the weather for Frisco, Colorado, which is a mountain town. It's a mountain town. I think it's by Breckenridge. They're having some cool temps. I have a jacket in my bag, and it is darn near triple digits. I'm the biggest idiot in the world. Coming up in the next hour of 580 Sports Talk, we're going to hear from John Kurtz from Open for Business and Michael Swain from Fog.net. Big 12 Football Media Days from the Star in Frisco, Texas. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, on your mobile device, on the MSC radio app, and on YouTube on our Channel 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. I am live at the Star in Frisco, Texas. Day one of the Big 12 Football Media Days. Spencer Dupuis back at our Huntoon Hill studios in Topeka, joining me as well. We are with you until 5:30 this afternoon or evening. We'll break away then for Royals baseball. Royals and the Mets, game one of a 3-game series at Citi Field. And I have seen all of your comments in the YouTube chat about how foolish I was to have picked both the Royals and the Mets to be playoff teams this year. I picked the Mets to win the World Series. Man, what the hell was I thinking?
It's okay. Their roster on paper looked like they should have been World Series contenders.
Sure, it did. It's why I picked them. I mean, I wasn't on drugs. Like I had my reasons. I thought they were pretty sound. I just ended up being completely wrong. I was saying I seen all your comments and I deserve them. I just want everybody to know that I deserve those the comments and the criticism coming in the YouTube live chat today. You can interact with us there on 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, also on the text line 785-272-9429. Now, as mentioned, this is day one of Big 12 Football Media Days. Day two is tomorrow, and day two is the big day for our teams, Kansas and Kansas State. That's when both the Jayhawk and Wildcat contingents will be here in Frisco. So we'll have a lot more interviews with players and coaches on tomorrow's show because with all due respect to UCF linebacker Lewis Carter, who seems like a nice young man and was at the table next to mine for a little bit earlier today, we're kind of going to narrow our focus on the KU and the K-State contingent. So it ended up, Spencer, that I had more time on my hands today than even I anticipated. And there was one big problem with that. The table I'm next to has a display and a working PlayStation. And they've got CFB 27 running.
Okay.
And yeah, I have had the addict itch all afternoon. This is like taking Tyrone Biggums from the Chappelle Show and seating him next to Free Crack Giveaway Gazette, like on the media row. Like this is I just keep looking over at it, stealing glances, like it looks fun. Like the mascots were playing earlier. It's like, well, I want to play against Super Frog. Can I get on the sticks? I want to play against Super Frog. So between that and just kind of walking around the place and hearing the coaches speak today, obviously it was an interesting day to hear the coaches talk because be completely frank, this is a more interesting crop of teams as the 2026 Big 12 season is concerned. Texas Tech, BYU, Houston, that might be top three in the league. Oklahoma State, Colorado, Arizona State, also interesting teams. A little bit more sizzle on day one of Big 12 Football Media Day. And, of course, also the announcement that Monster Energy is putting its name on everything Big 12 related this season, quite literally. And their logo. Apparently, teams are going to wear a Monster Energy jersey patch this year, which is crazy.
I have a big, interesting question about this. I don't know if we have time to get into it now or not, but so as part of this deal, it's a $20 million multi-year deal. It's $20 million a year. Each team gets $1 million. Each conference school gets $1 million, and the conference keeps $4 million, as per what I've read. Are they going to make the teams, the schools, pay for these patches and these stuff for their field and for the court out of that $1 million, or is it coming out of the $4 million? That's because there's no how much money.
It's a great question.
Is it actually, if it's they have to do all that with $1 million?
It's a great question. Another question is, what do you do about the schools that are Pepsi schools? Because Monster is a Coke product.
That's true.
Or a Coke adjacent product. Lots of questions that I'm not sure I have all of the answers to. But we'll have lots of answers from KU and K-State folks on tomorrow's show. We're going to hear from Michael Swain, Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He's here in Frisco. He'll join me live on Radio Row coming up at the bottom of this hour. We got What Is Wrong With You as well. But right now, my conversation from earlier today with a good friend of mine, John Kurtz. Used to do radio out in Manhattan, cover the Kansas State Wildcats exclusively. Now he covers the whole Big 12. You can read about it on the Open for Business newsletter and the Open for Business YouTube channel. John's a great time, and I enjoyed this conversation, and I know you will too, from Big 12 Football Media Days. Joined at Monster Energy Big 12 Football Media Days here at the Star in Frisco, Texas, by the man behind the Open for Business newsletter, YouTube sensation, K-State podcaster, John Kurtz. John, great to have you. Great to be here with you at Talkin season.
Damn, man, I am always here for it. I love Big 12 Media Days. Presented by Monster Energy. Kudos to you for nailing the sponsorship there. Brett Yormark would be proud.
Right.
I feel like you called me a YouTube sensation. I got to get on your level because I have not remembered to do that yet today to add in the Monster Energy. We're going to create some monster moments here.
So the angle I had on this, how do you think BYU feels about promoting a caffeinated beverage?
Ooh, like a super ultra caffeinated beverage.
Yes. Do we need to have like a caffeine-free, although I guess you can't caffeine-free.
They do caffeine now, They do.
Do they? They let that slide a little bit?
They do. If you go to a BYU game, which you totally should, it is amazing. I love the environment out there. It's gorgeous. But they are big. Dude, they love Coke Zero.
No kidding.
Coke Zero is huge. and just like the regular Cokes. They started like Swig. Do you guys have Swig yet in Topeka?
I don't know if we do. I don't know.
It's come to Kansas City now. It's like the dirty soda place where you spruce up your soda with a bunch of flavorings and stuff.
All right.
That started out in Utah because I think it was when they did switch over. I'm probably butchering this, but when they did allow them to have caffeine, then it was like everybody got really into it. So they love sugar. They love caffeine. I think they can probably embrace some Monster. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. You're right, though. You can't do the caffeine-free Monster.
Yeah, it's just really a Monster drink at that point. You get rid of the energy. Yeah. Well, we did hear from Brett Yormark earlier today. What, in your opinion, is the state of the Big 12? How do you feel about where this league stands entering the third year of this 16-team era? Obviously, Brett Yormark sounds bullish. I think he has reasons to be, but there was some tumult this offseason, Texas Tech related. So where do you think this league stands, not just in terms of its own 16-team membership, but is it finding its place in the college sports and specifically the college football landscape?
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like there was some level of progress last year. You had 3 teams in the top 15 of the college football playoff rankings, but yet, I talked to Brian Santiago, the athletic director at BYU earlier today, and I asked him the question. I was like, hey, man, like, last 2 years, like, you guys can't even get in the discussion, which is ridiculous. You should be, but you're not. Is there a problem here? Does the league need to fight harder? And he was like, look, we had everybody it wasn't even us that brought it up in league meetings. It was our compadres in the conference that were like, we've got to get them more respect for what they're doing. So I think they are still lacking a certain level of respect nationally. The league is and BYU is. Maybe Texas Tech has curbed some of that with the way they've thundered on the scene here, but I did kind of like the way Brett Yormark put it, where he was like, we needed to like stabilize, and now we're growing. We're in this growth phase, which is fair, but do you have a glass ceiling, I guess is really the point. I think the league is in a good place. I think it's grown a lot, but I do feel like there's a bit of a glass ceiling that's in place that I don't know that they're going to get across. And they're certainly not going to get across if they can't get along, which is a whole other issue. And I did appreciate Yormark at least like setting the tone on like we are not going to let Brendan Sorsby be the story of media days and let that dominate everything.
He shut down that question. That was his first question he took from the media after his opening statement, and he said, essentially, it's not what we're here for. It's clear that Brett Yormark considers that a dead and settled issue.
Yes.
Do you think it's a dead and settled issue?
Well, one thing I would love to know, and I don't know if this question will wind up getting asked here, somebody getting some access to Yormark, but do they still have the lawsuit on their end, the federal lawsuit from the Big 12's end? Is that still a thing? Like, because last we knew it was because they were holding on to see, like, let's make sure that Brendan Sorsby isn't going to play here. The CFL and all these other places had told him no, so let's make sure he's not going to wind up back at Texas Tech. I don't know if that still exists. I had someone with Tech earlier today say that to me. They're like, is that still a thing? Like, are they still trying to like preemptively basically? It's not really suing Texas Tech. It's suing for the right to be able to punish Texas Tech, but you get the idea there. So I don't know, man. It was clear to me listening to Jamie Pollard last week on 365 Sports. He did an interview with them where he said he still feels like Texas Tech should pay the Big 12's legal fees. He made it seem like that's still being discussed. I don't know if that will wind up happening. I personally would not do that. I think you got to just whatever you think Tech's responsibility there should be for the sake of the league and just harmony and moving forward. I don't think you want to go down that road. Jamie Pollard sure does, and you could just tell by the way he said it, like the tone in his voice, like there's emotion behind it. Like people are really fired up about this, and I would have to speculate to give a little bit of an olive branch to Tech fans that some of that's because they've been getting drubbed by Tech, and Tech has a lot of money in an era where that really, really matters, and they're just on a different playing field than everybody else in terms of that, at least right now.
John Kurtz, Open for Business newsletter, YouTube channel, joining us here at the Star in Frisco, Texas, at Big 12 Football Media Days here on 580 Sports Talk. Texas Tech was the big bad wolf in the league last year. Nobody was really close to them on the field. Then they went out to the Orange Bowl and they didn't score. And they had, I thought, a weakness at quarterback. I didn't think I thought Baron Morton was a liability more so than he was a strength for them. They tried to address that position. We know how that went. Will Hammond's the guy. Can Texas Tech dominate the league the way they did last year with Will Hammond at quarterback? Is the rest of the roster at the level that it needed or that it was at last year where you feel like it can still be head and shoulders above the rest of the conference?
Yeah, I think that's in some ways the million-dollar question because to me the equation for Tech was last year they had a historically good defense and, yes, a ceiling at quarterback. Speaking of glass ceilings, there was a glass ceiling with Baron Morton playing quarterback. But a historically good defense can take you pretty darn far. They clearly crushed it in the portal again, but are you going to have a top 5 Heisman finisher at linebacker this year? Are you going to have the number 2 pick in the draft on your defensive line? Like, they could be really good and still have knocked it out of the park in the portal, but not have a historically good defense like they did last year. For instance, I think Ben Roberts is really good, and he'll probably be the best linebacker Tech has, but in some ways, you could view like Austin Romaine from K-State as the replacement for Jacob Rodriguez. And look, Austin Romaine's a really good player. It's not Jacob Rodriguez, At least maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I don't think he's that type of player. He did play hurt a lot last year at K-State. So the thought was, well, their offense is going to be better. Like if the defense steps back an order of magnitude, the offense will be 2 orders of magnitude better because they do have a lot back. Those running backs are back. The receiver, they have one of the best tight ends in the country. I think the best tight end in the conference, Terrence Carter, who's walking around here somewhere. Now that question is, can you still be orders of magnitude better offensively if it's Will Hammond, and if it's is it a gimpy Will Hammond? Is he able to play week 1? Joey McGuire's been walking around, and I talked to some people at Tech that seem to think he may really be able to play week 1. But that's not easy to come back off an injury, and he was still really inconsistent, right? Like, I'm talking to, I'm sure, a lot of Kansas fans. Will Hammond didn't look really all that special in the Kansas game. He looked great at Utah. I think he's got a high ceiling, but they've got to tap into it and figure that out. So I think Tech will still be very good. I have been saying I took them from being the overwhelming favorite to the league to just lumping them in the top tier with BYU and Houston. That's where I feel they're at right now.
Last year, at this event, we were talking about the quarterbacks in this conference. It was a loaded list of quarterbacks going into last year, guys who were proven in the league, and it felt like maybe that group didn't exceed expectation. Maybe just hit that collective ceiling. Some guys overperformed. Connor Wegman, maybe Sorsby, I think he could put on that list of guys who overperformed. Some guys maybe underachieved a little bit. Sam Levitt was hurt. Avery Johnson didn't have the year. Jalen Daniels maybe didn't have the year some people expected. Going into this year, though, there might not be as much hype behind the quarterbacks in this conference, but I still kind of feel like that's where this conference can hang its hat, whether you're talking about the 6 returning starters or you're talking about a really promising group of transfers in, like Alonzo Barnett from James Madison to UCF, or DJ Lagway coming from Florida to Baylor. I still feel like this is a conference, and Yormark mentioned it today too, that can kind of be defined by a wide range of really, really good play under center.
Drew Mestamaker,
can't forget him.
Yeah, maybe the most sought-after player in the portal.
Newcomer of the year, preseason newcomer of the year in the conference.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's a good point. Those lists came out yesterday. So yeah, I mean, you got some dudes there. And, like, Noah Fafita might be the most criminally underrated player in the country, just that nobody really pays attention to. I think because he's at Arizona and, he was when he was great early on, he was overshadowed by Teteroa McMillan, who's this high-profile draft pick. But just a great story, a guy who stuck around. How many people do that? Through a coaching change, through losing Tet McMillan, who was his childhood friend. Not, like, dead, but to the NFL.
Right.
I want to make that clear. But
he didn't die, he just became a Carolina Panther.
Exactly.
Who's to say which is worse? That's me. They made the playoffs last year. Anyway.
Sorry, Carolina. Did not need
He's not dead, he just plays in the NFC South.
Yeah, yes. He's on Thursday Night Football these days. Anyway, okay, so he lost his best receiver, who was his good buddy. They struggled mightily, and it was a coaching change, and he has stuck it through. He's a great story. I think he's a great dude, and he is a really good quarterback. And Arizona probably should be getting more love than they are right now this year. And then, you've got a caliber of quarterbacks, too. And I guess, like, DJ Lagway probably fits in this same sort of boat. But, like, the Avery Johnsons of the world, like, a lot of talent. People see the talent. People know you can be great, but you got to go actually do it. And he's been productive enough. The numbers actually are pretty similar to Will Howard in his career. But I think we all realize, like, there's another gear or two or three that Avery Johnson just hasn't hit that you certainly hope that he can hit. So I think it could be even better if you get guys like him to really unlock themselves, and that obviously a lot of that's going to fall on Colin Klein, because to me I take probably a little bit of heat on the Three-Mont podcast from the crew for maybe being a bit too hard on Avery Johnson, but it's because, like, you can see the talent. I mean, the expectations for me have been so high because of the talent level that he has. I just think he needs to develop a little bit more of that, like, the leadership, the toughness, the I'm going to go out and make a play when we need to make a play kind of thing.
A few more questions for John Kurtz, the Open for Business newsletter. Get it in your email, the Open for Business YouTube channel. Go subscribe to that while you subscribe to the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel.
There you go.
We just hit 1,000 recently.
Hey, monetized, baby.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. Anyhow, John Kurtz joining us here from Big 12 Football Media Days in Frisco, Texas on 580 Sports Talk. You mentioned there's a tier of teams that I think everybody kind of feels like is the top of this league. Texas Tech will enter as the favorite, maybe not as overwhelming as they might have been with a more proven quarterback like Brendan Sorsby. But then there's BYU right there. Bear Bachmeier exceeded expectations last year, comes back for his sophomore year. They got the preseason offensive player of the year in L.J. Martin, have been an established, really good team the last 2 years in this iteration of the league. You got Houston. Seems like they're on an upward trajectory. I kind of thought they were going to enter the year as a sleeper team, but everybody's on Houston. So they don't feel – they got to the point where they're so underrated. I'm now starting to wonder if they might be a little bit overrated. That's how that cycle goes. But beyond that top tier, who's a team that you've identified as a team that you feel like maybe is now starting to fly under the radar as a legitimate conference title contender?
See, you took my Houston answer. It's interesting. A lot of people do really like Houston. I also feels like it's mostly Texas Tech fans, I suppose, on the internet. Will give me pushback and be like, Houston, what are you doing, dude? I think a lot of people see Houston as a regression candidate because they won some close games last year, and they did get a kiss with a fairly light schedule outside of the Tech game last year. So I get why some people would see regression candidate there. I just think Willie Fritz is so good. And Connor Wegman has never had the same system 2 years in a row because he was like, or been healthy and had the same system 2 years in a row in his career. He's always been hurt or a coaching change or a coordinator change. So I think that'll help them a lot. That's a team I really, really like. I guess if you want to believe in the Oklahoma State, like, Indiana comp, and not like national champion Indiana, but first year Kurt Cignetti bringing in a bunch of James Madison guys and still winning double-digit games, that's one you could buy into. I mean, they're trying the same blueprint. It's a program that I don't know. Maybe it's not fair to say arguably in worse shape than what Kurt Cignetti took over at Indiana, but in terms of, like, record, it's got to be about the same or worse with what Oklahoma State's been the last 2 years. But, man, Drew Mestamaker, who was literally just walking by us a second ago, incredible quarterback. Wyatt Young, great receiver. Caleb Hawkins, great back. I mean, those guys would have been SEC or Big Ten players for sure had they not followed their head coach. And they got 20 players total, basically the whole staff following him. I mean, that's as good as you can do in terms of bringing the continuity. So, like, I could buy into Oklahoma State. The question will be, can they play enough defense? Young defensive coordinator. That was not North Texas' specialty. Will they have enough to make up on that side of the ball? Wendell Gregory, who was their best defensive player last year, is at K-State now. I mean, we'll find out quick about their defense, but they're going to be like this old school Big 12 team that's probably going to be outscoring people like it's 2013,
Let's get your thoughts on the state schools as we wrap up. We'll start with Kansas. They've been about a play away from bowl eligibility each of the last 2 years, or a game away or a quarter away, and they did not get over that hump. And now the Jalen Daniels era is over. They've got a quarterback question going into this season. Can Lance Leipold get the Jayhawks back to a bowl in 2026? What does that look like for them?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a lot of that's going to depend on what happens at quarterback, like how that quarterback battle goes. But anybody who's followed me for a long time knows that, like, I'm about as big an Andy Kotelnicki guy as there is out there. Like, I just thought he was phenomenal. I loved that offense when he was at Kansas running it. So, to me, that's a huge coup to get him to come back and run the offense and run the show again at KU. Like, I think that will be extremely helpful. Like, I watched him, for instance, maybe Cole Ballard, that's the guy at QB, right? I mean, do you remember that 2023 K-State game? Like, Jalen Daniels is hurt. Jason Bean's hurt. They're running like a single wing offense with Cole Ballard.
Yeah.
With Cole Ballard, and I'm like, they're going to win this game. I mean, and if Rich Miller doesn't drop a pick six, they may have won that game by 3 touchdowns. Like, and that was a good K-State team. I'm just like, I have the most immense amount of respect for that guy as OC. I think he's really good. It's just like something, there was some juice missing the last couple of years in that Kansas program, right? And I know that KU fans are a little bit frustrated. I still think it's a sign of the times that there is that level of frustration with the program when, I mean, look at where it was, not that he's a victim, Lance Leipold, of his own success in that way. They're going to have to get better on defense and be more consistent there. But to me, it's like the bread and butter of that is they need to have a fun, exciting offense. And I think Andy Kotelnicki can probably figure that out because I watched him do it against a really good Joe Klanderman, Chris Kleiman defense with just like MacGyvering that thing a couple of years ago. So to me, that's the big storyline with KU.
For K-State, it's a favorable schedule. That's the first thing that jumps out to me. Houston's at home, no BYU, no Texas Tech. Avery Johnson back for his senior year, and now it's the Colin Klein show again on offense, and we saw him thrive in some of that stuff as a true freshman. Is this a year where Kansas State can again outperform some of the expectations? Because I don't think they're going to come in as a team that a lot of people have the same kind of expectations for that they've had the last couple of years.
You know, it's weird. I saw some people were on Open for Business were giving me a little bit of question like, hey, man, BetMGM, I think it was, came out with the over-under.
Yes, 8.5 for K-State.
8.5, and it was tied for second in the Big 12. Like, BYU's number, I think, was the same. And I totally get why you would, in a vacuum, just be like, what is going on with that? But K-State's got a really favorable schedule. I mean, that is the thing. Like, nothing against Tulane because they beat K-State the year the Cats won the championship in the Big 12 a couple of years ago. They're on the schedule again, but them and Washington State plus Nichols. I mean, that's a really manageable non-con. Yeah, you miss Tech and BYU. Houston, you get at home. That'll be a huge game. I mean, they road trips to Arizona State and TCU. Like, I think Arizona State particularly is going to be really salty. They just have a brutal schedule themselves. To me, it all comes down. Two things. Jordan Peterson is a really youthful defensive coordinator. This will be his first time running a Power 4 defense, though they do have a lot of experience on that staff. And then Avery, man, I think this team, if they're going to hit the potential of like a 9 or 10 win season, which I know my 3-Maw co-hosts think is possible. I know, obviously, with the number being at 8.5, if you're taking the over on that, I think it will take a special Avery Johnson season. And that is what I just don't know. I'm not yet ready to proclaim that I think that will for sure happen. So I've been kind of falling in line with this, 8-4, 9-3, kind of towing that, but leaning more toward like the 8-4 for K-State this year is where I feel. And I think that'd be great, by the way. I mean, look at the way Colin Klein is recruiting right now. Like, they've got like a top 30 class at the moment. I'm very encouraged by what he's doing on the recruiting trail.
John Kurtz, author of the Open for Business newsletter. It's all Big 12 all the time. Get that in your email boxes. I do. It's a read every time that I get it in my email box. Check out the YouTube channel as well, Open for Business. John Kurtz joining us here on 580 Sports Talk from Big 12 Football Media Days. John, we could have gone for an hour plus. It's almost like you used to do this for a living.
Yeah.
So appreciate you taking the time, and let's catch up before too long.
Dude, we should do it again soon, Dan. Take care, man.
Absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. What is wrong with you's next on 580 Sports Talk. It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. Two stories today. We didn't get to What Is Wrong With You yesterday on account of that long Royals game, that beatdown they put on the Phillies really shortened our show yesterday, so we didn't get to What Is Wrong With You yesterday. We're starting a new week of What Is Wrong With You today. Two new stories. Spencer Dupuis, go first.
Yeah, we're going to go to Florida. A man brought a real gun to a water gun fight. An unhinged Florida man pulled a handgun on a group of teenage pranksters who had fired a water pellet gun at his car after mistaking it for their friend's vehicle. A 15-year-old boy who had been riding around Port St. Lucie with pals when he opened fire on a 49-year-old man, Gregory Davis's vehicle, with his Orbez blaster on the evening of July 1st, the Port St. Lucie police said. The furious Floridian then proceeded to tail the teen's vehicle, shouting at the crew to pull over now. According to police in a recording on the 911 call, he then pulled a 9mm handgun on the group of teens who had stopped their vehicle, demanding they get the bleep out of the car, according to cops and witness video. Officers arrived on scene soon after and quickly defused the situation, taking Davis's firearm and arresting him. An investigation by officers on scene quickly pieced together that the teens had shot at Davis's vehicle with a water gun under the impression that it was their friend's vehicle who they'd been trying to prank. They also realized the gun being used wasn't a BB gun. It was a glorified water gun. Cops later charged Davis with aggravated assault, false imprisonment of a child. The shooter was hit with a charge for throwing a missile at an occupied vehicle. So both people got charged in this scenario.
So, I understand that guy being mad. I do. I would be mad too. And if you're going to pull a prank that
What's a
involves
water
shooting,
gun, Dan?
I know, but I don't care what you're shooting at me. If you're shooting something at me and I don't want to be shot at, I'm not gonna respond real kindly. I'm also not gonna wave a real gun.
That
you.
too.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
It's a very American problem. We solve our problems, and we solve our problems with guns. That's like we default to gun, and that's bad. We shouldn't do that. Larger topic for a different day, maybe a different kind of show, but I think it's bad that we default to gun as the solution for things like this.
Yeah.
Because there was certainly a way to diffuse that didn't need to involve gun. And now he learned the hard way, too. My story today, we're going to Maryland, Howard County, Maryland. We meet 29-year-old Jalen Goddard, who had his car stolen. Called the police about having his car stolen. And after the police took that call about his stolen car, they also took a call about a burglary at a Verizon store that was across the street from where the stolen vehicle report had been filed. Well, the police did some detective work, did some real policing, and they noticed blood on the store's window. And then they noticed blood on the glasses and the hand and the shirt of the man who had called in the burglary, because he was the burglary of the car, because he was the one doing the burglary of the store. Jalen Goddard was breaking into the Verizon store, and somebody stole his car. And he called the police about his stolen car, and they arrested him for the crime that he was doing. I think it's a pretty obvious solution there. You got to take that L if you're Mr. Goddard. If you are in the act of committing a crime and your car gets stolen, you got to charge that one to the game. You got to say, man, not my day, and call an Uber to get you home from your failed burglary. Instead of making an even bigger problem for yourself and calling the police on yourself, which is effectively what he did. All right, those are our two stories today. Who do you like? Who wins today, Spencer?
Man, I don't know. You can't self-incriminate yourself, but
no.
But also, a man pulled a gun on a teenager for a water gun fight. You can't get that mad either. So I don't know.
That's a bad reaction, but it's understandable that he had an angry reaction. It's just not understandable the angry reaction was what it was. I do not, for the life of me, understand. I'm robbing a store and my car got stolen. Better call the cops.
Yes, I clearly robbed the store.
Yes, that is not a reaction I understand. That's only going to lead to one possible conclusion, and that is the conclusion that was arrived at there, that he got arrested. So that's going to be my lean today. Can you talk me out of it, Spencer?
I'll lean
all righty. All right, we'll go with the guy who called the cops on himself for burglarizing a store. That's going to be our winner on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joins us live from Frisco, Texas, at Big 12 Football Media Days for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 WIBW. We are joined live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, by Michael Swain, who almost missed the hard in. It's not a hard in, Michael. You're fine. But Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joins us, as he always does on Tuesdays at this time, for Jayhawk Weekly. We're pleased to be joined by Michael in person here at the Star today. And Michael, first question, have you availed yourself of a Monster Energy drink?
I did not. I brought the official, I think I can say this now technically, the official energy drink of Fog.net at a Celsius.
Okay.
Because I can't do the Monster Energy stuff.
I'm not an energy drink guy at all.
I'm not either, and I was going to get coffee, and then I couldn't find a good coffee shop, so I just caved and bought a $4 Celsius at a gas station. Terrible decision, but I have energy.
Because you flew in today, right?
I did.
Yeah, just got here. Boy, are your arms tired. But Monster Energy, Big 12 Football Media Day. We were joking about it earlier. BYU's going to have a caffeinated beverage on their uniforms.
Well, I mean, there's so many ways you can go with this, right? Okay, BYU is going to have a caffeinated beverage on the field, and maybe even on the football field and on the basketball field.
Yeah.
Then you've got Pepsi schools like Kansas.
Yes.
Who, and for those who don't know, right, Monster Energy is a Coca-Cola kind of adjacent company.
Right.
And so now, how's that going to work with KU's deal? Like, there's some of the stuff that obviously would have had to out for this to happen, right? This announcement today is not going to come as a surprise to Pepsi. At the end of the day, like, that's still conflicting what some of these other schools have as their official drinks. Like, this whole thing is just so funny.
It's something else, isn't it? Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, Kansas and Kansas State both go tomorrow, so I've been chilling. I've been hanging out, people watching, having some conversations. But the Kansas contingent will speak tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about the players we're going to hear from tomorrow a little bit later on. But started talking season, and it's the starting to think about what 2026 football season is going to hold. And Kansas, as we've sort of talked about through the spring and into this, is in an interesting spot because it really does feel, even more so than last year did. I know they had 38 seniors graduated in 2024. I think it was 38. But now with Jalen Daniels gone, it really does feel like this is the next era of Kansas football. That this is a new beginning in a way for them. And expectations will not be the same as they had been the previous 2 years. Certainly won't be ranked in the preseason like they were in 2024. But this is a program that needs to rediscover some forward momentum so that it doesn't feel like they're spinning their wheels in a spot where nobody wants to be spinning their wheels at a level where you're not reaching bowl eligibility. So what is most important for this Kansas program to do to make sure that they are able to attain that bowl eligibility that eluded them maybe only by a game or by a play or two the last 2 years?
Yeah, I think some of it is within their control, and some of it isn't. The quarterback decision, I think, is what really sets the tone for this year. And I can't tell you who the right pick is. And that's going to be the biggest thing that they're going to have to figure out is who is the guy that should be the starting quarterback of the team right now. Give the edge to Cole Ballard. But that's going to be decided during camp. And if Isaiah Marshall comes out and tears it up, like, he will be the starting quarterback. It's going to be a meritocracy. The best player is going to play. And you don't know how they're going to play because they really haven't. Like, I think we talked about it in the past, but like, Isaiah Marshall has not thrown a pass against a Power 4 team. Cole Ballard has not played consistently since the 2023 season when he was a true freshman who was still figuring it out and was thrown into the fire, against Texas Tech, and then later against K-State. So there are so many questions, and I think the quarterback position is what's going to determine if this is a 4-8, 5-7, or a 6-6, 7-5 type of season. And it's just so hard to give you a correct answer. We've talked about traits, right? Are you going to lean into the elite trait of the room, which is the athleticism of Isaiah Marshall? Or are you going to lean into maybe the overall leadership capabilities and the knowledge of the scheme, the ability to execute that Cole Ballard has shown in practice? And I think there's a chance he could just be a team captain because that's how much respect he commands in the program. So for me, it all starts at quarterback, and then you get to the other positions of, hey, can the offensive line be better? The running back room, you love the talent in it. How do those pieces come together? Defensively, can they take a step forward in year 2 under DK McDonald? What does that step forward look like, right? Are you going to actually get an interception from a cornerback this year? That was something fun that I've got coming tomorrow morning is some questions for, the defense and lingering stuff and what needs to be decided kind of in the first few weeks of the season. Kansas was the only Big 12 school last year to not have a cornerback record an interception.
Wow.
On average, if you take out Kansas, the Big 12 other schools, 15 others, averaged 4 interceptions, and the median was 4 as well. Like, those are huge plays. Think about at Arizona, at Iowa State. Wouldn't you, as a Kansas fan, or if you're Lance Leipold or DK McDonald, love to have had an interception in that game? Just they're big plays, and so I just think there are so many questions right now, and I think every question I have, though, comes back to quarterback and what happens, because you're not going anywhere if your quarterback plays bad. There's just so much to overcome.
I was talking to John Kurtz of Open for Business earlier today, and he mentioned he thinks very highly of Andy Koldenicki, and mentioned back in 2023, the game where they were down to Cole Ballard at quarterback, younger Cole Ballard at quarterback, and just about beat a really good Kansas State team. On a night where, Rich Miller doesn't drop that interception, they probably do beat Kansas State that night with the third-string Cole Ballard, Callow, very inexperienced. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff Andy Koldenicki can draw it up. He can make it work. He is, I think, one of the best offensive minds in the country. How much impact can his return to Kansas have on this offense, which doesn't return a lot of playmakers from last year? Obviously, you lose your quarterback, you lose your leading rushers, you lose your leading receivers, but you have Cam Pickett. We're going to talk to him tomorrow. You bring Dylan Edwards and a promising class of backs in. And you got to figure out quarterback, but there, like you said, there are some traits there. How much can Kotelnicki help this offense maybe perform above expectations?
Yeah, so I think a lot. And here is the key question. You go back to 2022 and you go back to 2023 and you look at the offensive performances in kind of the first 5 weeks of the season, they're all stellar, right? I mean, everyone can remember, right, the game against Illinois in 2023 and just the offense for KU, the side-to-side, the way they got the Illinois defense off kilter. And then there's always a lull that happens, kind of mid-October into November, where teams start to figure out KU's offense. And you go back to that K-State game, and the reason why I feel like it felt more like a week 2, week 3 game was the fact that K-State had no idea what to expect with Cole Ballard.
Yeah.
And so that is going to be the real key this year. Is you look at the start of the season for KU, there are some big games, right? You go to London and play Arizona State. That's like a swing game, and it's week 3, right? You win that game, all of a sudden there's momentum. You're feeling good about the season. There's a good chance, at that point then you're probably starting the year, 3-1? I think beating Missouri will be a big challenge for KU this year. And then you get to go play on the road at Utah when you're going to need some creativity. You're going to go play on the road at K-State where you're going to need to, bring out everything you got in the bag. And then it's that next little period after that where I think is really where the season's going to be defined. It's when teams have the book on KU and the starting quarterback that they have. How do you adjust? And that's been the big key. And again, it's happened in so many seasons now with KU's offense where it's been so good early and then it's had some struggles late. Honestly, the only season that really didn't happen was 2024 with Jeff Grimes, and obviously late in the year they just decided, hey, Devin Neal, you're the best running back we've ever had. Carry the team, right? You remember that state game, the Colorado game. And the defense carried the BYU game. So, it's one of these questions where, I think Kotelnicki's impact is going to be drastic and huge. But it's a question of when you get into those kind of dog days of the season, can you adjust to the adjustments that other teams make?
Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us for a live edition of Jayhawk Weekly from Big 12 Football Media Days at the Star in Frisco, Texas, here on 580 Sports Talk. I mentioned we're going to hear from Cameron Pickett tomorrow. We're also going to hear from Calvin Clements, local boy, Lawrence kid. Finally his time to kind of be the anchor of this offensive line. And, so much of Kansas's success 2 years ago on offense when they finally did get rolling with Devin Neal is because they had a terrific offensive line that year. They took a little bit of a step back last season. It's going to be really important, whoever ends up at quarterback, that the offensive line play is better in 2026. What's the ceiling for that group?
Yeah, it's a really interesting position because there are questions again. And it feels like every year, at some point in camp, you ask me, how do you feel about the offensive line? McMahon, there are questions.
Yeah.
And they've kind of figured it out. Sometimes they've, I wouldn't say lucked into it, but backed into it, right? So 2024, for example, right? You had Logan Brown and Bryce Cable who switched tackle spots in the second week of camp after the first 6 months of the year they've been playing other side. They figured it out. Last year was probably the first year where it felt like the offensive line was not the biggest strength of the offense. And so for this year, I look at it, and I think so much rides on – there's kind of two subsects here. There's the first, which is the left side. It's Amir Herring and Calvin Clements. Can those guys improve in their second year as a starter? I would lean yes, right? You've gone through the gauntlet before. You should be able to take some of those lessons you learned and carry it forward. Calvin, I'm really excited to see what it looks like during camp because I think strength was one thing that he lacked at times, especially in his lower half. And so where is he when camp starts? I think Amir Herring is going to be better. And he was really good last year. So that's that side of the line. And then you go to the other side, and it's a question of, okay, who's your starting center? Well, I think it's going to be Kason Carpenter, transfer from Oklahoma State. Started at Tulsa and then didn't play last year. Was behind a guy who's now going to go play at Wisconsin. And then you look at right guard where it's Tavake Tuikulavatu and Connor Stroh. Stroh is a guy that I think KU really had some expenditure to get out of the portal. And he's got starting experience from his time at Texas. And you've got Tavake, who last year was a rotational piece at guard. And the question is, okay, who wins that job first of all? Second of all, how well are they going to play, right? I think both guys are physical beasts, right? I think 6'5" for Tavake, 6'7" for Stroh. Stroh is one of those guys who's on the 24/7 Sports freaks list just because of his strength and power for a guard. And so that's a question. And then you got right tackle where I think Nick Moreau is probably going to win the job, transfer from Cal. So it just comes down to how do the pieces come together and how do the individuals improve. And it's so hard to measure that. And it's going to be such a critical piece because KU as a team needs its offensive line to play well because you're going to need to rely so much on the run game and the talent you have in the running back room. You're not getting anywhere if the offensive line is getting pushed back 3 yards every time you try to hand the ball off.
On the defensive side, Leroy Harris is going to be here tomorrow. Blake Harold is going to be here tomorrow. Defense is in need of some playmakers. I thought Harris was really good last year. I'm excited for what he can be. The defensive tackles, I thought, played pretty well, generally speaking, last season. Is there enough playmaking juice in the front seven this year? Is there enough pass rush behind Harris coming off the edge? Who needs to step forward to make sure that there is?
Yeah, great question. I look at it, and I wish you could say that, like, Trayvon McAlpine, really good transfer from Tulane. You know, I wish I could say, you know, you knew he was going to be 100% healthy. I don't think that's the case. I think he would have been a beast as KU transitions to do some more of this 3-down, odd man front stuff. But I look at the pass rush, and I think that is the biggest spot where KU needs to improve. It's almost like the quarterback stat I threw out earlier. Like, pass rush-wise, if you looked at the pure sack numbers, it wasn't like it was when KU had the 4-down fronts, right, with Austin Booker coming off the edge or even Dean Miller in the one season. And KU changed the scheme around a little bit, where you had the defensive end dropping into coverage sometimes, playing odd fronts, and trying to blitz some of the linebackers, and that's where they got some pass rush from. The question for me right now is, like, where is that going to come from the defensive ends? I think Leroy Harris has shown he can do it, especially in some of those 4-down front stuff. Like, you go back to that Arizona game. I mean, he was maybe the best defensive player on the field in a game in which KU really did a great job of slowing down that Arizona attack for most of the game until it mattered, and then they did,
right,
which is important. But then you look elsewhere, and Dak Brinkley also flashed that Arizona game. I believe he had 2 sacks. He's one that he is like the guy that if you're looking for a breakout star in that defensive end room, I think Dak's the guy. He's got the athleticism. He's got the size now that he's been in the program for a couple years, and as long as he can get it together and really execute what he's asked of in terms of not having mental lapses, I think he could be it. But I think pass rush needs to improve, and I think Blake Harold has been one of the unsung heroes of the defense 2 years straight. He has played at such a high level, and he's just going to be a junior. Like, in 2024, like, he was so good and so productive, and last year, playing hurt, was productive again. And I think he just fits this defensive scheme and what they're going to try and do with multiple looks and multiple fronts. So you need more pass rush. You got to put more pressure on the quarterback. And at the same time, like, you can go, the Cincinnati game's a great example. Go watch the second half of that game. KU hit Sorsby 7 times, 8 times, and he was able to get the throw off just in time, but his guys were wide open because nobody could cover. And, like, at some point, your pass rush is only as good as your coverage too, and that's why KU on the back end needs to get better play from its corners. And so again, it feels like so much of this team right now is question marks, and you're wondering, can this happen? Can that happen? What needs to go right? And I think all this comes together, and like every position group, you just need better play than you had last year. And if all of a sudden, if you get Jalen Todd playing on the outside again and playing as well as he did, you know, when he was playing as an outside corner, not as a slot guy, and then you maybe get some improvement from your other cornerback spot. All of a sudden, if you can cover better, Kobe, Mello, like those days, right, that made it a lot easier on Austin Booker to go rush the passer.
Sure.
So it all comes together, and all these pieces need to come together in camp, and it's just hard to say how it will, but it has to happen. Or if not, it's going to be another really tough year for KU, I think, defensively.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Appears with us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly, joining us live here at the Star in Frisco, Texas, at Big 12 Football Media Days. Michael, enjoy your energy drink of choice. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Sounds great. See you tomorrow.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk here from the Star in Frisco, Texas, Big 12 Football Media Days. Dan Lucero here in Frisco. Spencer Dupuy back at our Huntington Hill studios. It's Random Question Tuesday. Spencer, you have a random question for me today.
Yeah, I told you off the air yesterday before you went to Frisco, and I told it yesterday on the air that over the weekend, my neighbor, little kid neighbor, probably 10 years old, ding-dong ditched us, but it was on a Ring camera. So I thought about this. What now, because of technology, for little kids having fun with their friends or doing something, cannot happen anymore because of technology? What's one thing you can think of?
Playing outdoors.
Not like that.
I know that's a kind of a smart aleck answer to your question, but no, yeah, probably, pranks like that, the bag of dog poop or the on fire or the ding dong ditch. Yeah, everything's on camera now. You don't get caught on camera. You can't be messing around with that stuff, especially because somebody might come out of their house with the blick, with the gun, with the heat.
Yeah.
Can't very well chance that. We got one more half hour of 580 Sports Talk. We'll do headlines and a final word to wrap up the program before Royals baseball. Let's get final half hour of the day here on 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, on your mobile device, on the MSC Radio app, and on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you in separate places today. Spencer's manning the controls back at our Huntoon Hill Studios in Topeka, while yours truly is at the Star in Frisco, Texas, on day one of Big 12 Football Media Days. Day two is where the action is, as far as we're concerned. Kansas and Kansas State both bringing their contingents tomorrow. So on tomorrow's program, if all goes according to plan, what we'd like to do on tomorrow's show is bring you our conversations with both head coaches, Lance Leipold and Colin Klein, and whichever player interviews we can get into the can before the show kicks off officially at 3 o'clock. Hopefully, K-State quarterback Avery Johnson. Again, the Kansas State contingent includes Johnson along with running back Joe Jackson, defensive back Wesley Fair, and linebacker Rex Van Wy, while Kansas is bringing offensive tackle Calvin Clements, wide receiver Cameron Pickett, linebacker Trey Lathan, defensive tackle Blake Harold, and defensive end Leroy Harris. We'll get you some interviews. We'll only have 2.5 hours to get it all in. We'll also have our Wildcat wrap-up on tomorrow's show, presented by Tallgrass Windows and Doors. Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, will join us on tomorrow's show. So we'll be jam-packed tomorrow with more KU and K-State stuff, and whatever we don't play for you tomorrow that we come home with, we'll play in the coming days here on 580 Sports Talk. So we appreciate you tuning in and hope you're enjoying our coverage from Big 12 Football Media Days. As I said, we've only got half an hour left on 580 Sports Talk today because we're going to break away for Royals baseball. 5:30 pregame, 6:10 first pitch from Citi Field in Queens as interleague play back on the menu for the Royals. Still on the menu, I suppose. Just wrapped up 3 with the Phillies at home. Now they'll play another NL East team. The New York Mets host the Royals for a 3-game set. Game 1 of the series tonight, Seth Lugo gets the start on the mound for Kansas City. Winners of 2 in a row after winning against the Phillies on Sunday and Monday afternoons. 6:10 first pitch, 5:30 pregame from the Royals Radio Network. And Spencer, I have to say, I was kind of excited to see we were off at 5:30 today.
Yeah.
We are not close. Frisco, the Dallas metro area, the Metroplex, as they call it, Spencer. I don't know if you're aware of this. It's very big. It's very, very big. Lots of square footage in the Metroplex.
I could imagine.
So, yes. So, Frisco, not all that close to Arlington, which is where, of course, the Dallas Cowboys play, where this event has been. I mean, prior years, it's been at Jerry World. Obviously, they got a whole other thing going on there lately,
yeah.
The World Cup. So we couldn't really very well be at Jerry World this year. We're at his practice facility in Frisco instead. But it's not real close, Frisco and Arlington. Not super close. But anytime I go anywhere that is outside of home, anytime I leave Topeka, first thing I do is, all right, where am I going? Is there a baseball game?
Yeah.
Can I find a ticket? Is the home team in town? And so Frisco has a AAA ball club, the Frisco Rough Riders. They are out of town this week. But the Rangers are in town. They open up a 3-game series tonight against the Angels. And I was throwing around the idea of going. But, I mean, 40 minutes, that's the drive. It's going to be about a 40-minute drive, and that's give or take traffic. And you got to pay for parking, and it's hot, and I'm working all day, and I drove all day yesterday. So I'm thinking, maybe I won't go. So I told my wife before I left, I said, I'll probably only go, if Jacob deGrom's throwing for the Rangers, because he's a future Hall of Famer, I think. He's one of the best pitchers of his era.
Yeah.
3 Cy Youngs, obviously, still pitching at a high level. And I've never seen him pitch in person. And that's the kind of thing that gets me in the gates of a ball game is a good starting pitching matchup. So I said, if deGrom's going for the Rangers, I might make it out there. I might see if I can get out there. But if not, I'm not going to worry about it. Guess who's starting tonight for the Texas Rangers?
Jacob deGrom?
It is indeed the 3-time Cy Young Award winner, Jacob deGrom. And so, long story short, I have a ticket for tonight's game, and I'm going.
There you go.
I found a ticket on the secondary market for $10.
Why not?
And I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna make why not? Exactly. I'm gonna haul it down there as soon as we're done here and get to the hotel, get in more comfortable clothes, and get down to Arlington to see some baseball. So I've already got my ticket paid for, already got my parking paid for, so I'm ready to rock, man.
There you go.
I'm excited. Only bummer is it's not Dollar Hot Dog Night.
Oh,
I think that used to be Tuesday because I remember some years back. It would have been, was it 2022 or 23? It was 23. It was one of the media days that I went to with former 5A Sports Talk host Jake LeBon. And it was at Jerry World that year. So we were staying in Arlington, and the Rangers were at home, and it was a new park, right? So we went to the game. We went to, I think it was 23. So we went to the game that night. It was Tuesday night, just like it would be here. And it was Dollar Dog Night. So that was dinner. We ate. We each ate like 5 hot dogs because that was the max they would sell you at a time. So we each threw back 5 dogs, and we enjoyed a baseball game. That was also the night Jake ran us out of gas. We ran out of gas. I don't know. if I've ever told you that story, Spencer.
No.
But I'm going to have to recount that one in full to you off the air because it would take up the rest of the show. To do the telling of it in a faithful fashion, we would run up against the half hour and we'd be done with the show. We wouldn't get to any headlines or anything. But just know that was the night that Jake ran us out of gas, and we had to walk to a gas station that would not sell us a gas can because they didn't have any. And so Jake tried to fill, those big soda jugs you can buy.
Yeah.
With the handle. Like, they're for truckers, right? It's like a gallon. You put a gallon of soda in there. Jake bought one of those and was about to fill it up with gas. And the clerk literally ran out the front door of the gas station. Be like, no, you can't do that. So we ended up having to call an Uber to a different gas station because we'd already walked 1 mile and it was hotter than hell, and we didn't want to walk another mile. We were full of hot dogs. So we ended up Ubering to another gas station to buy a gas can and Ubering back to get gas to put in our car and finally get home. That's the Cliff Notes version of that story. I don't think I'm going to run out of gas tonight, but hey, I guess you never know.
I know you're not purchasing the ticket for this specific night where you would get a custom hat and co-branded sleeveless hoodie, but tonight is LSU night as they celebrate their favorite LSU Tiger, Josh Smith.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't buy a branded ticket, I don't believe. Just bought what was cheapest on StubHub. I said sort by cheapest, and I pushed the button.
Tomorrow's backyard baseball night. I wish I could go to that one.
They got
Pablo,
a cool, Pablo
style
Sanchez bobblehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Oh well, you can't
win
always.
them all.
I've already gotten one bobblehead at a game I've been to this year, so you can't always get what you want. Anyhow, that's what I'm doing when we're done here, which we're going to be after we do our headlines and after we get to a final word. Let's get into those 580 Sports Talk headlines while we're here and have a moment. Let's begin with the TBT, the basketball tournament. You've been hearing ads for it. It's coming to Bramlage Coliseum and Lee Arena, not next week, but the week after. 2 weeks from tonight is the first game. 2 weeks from tomorrow is the game, will be game 2 of the 3-game series between the Purple and White and JHX Hoops, the K-State and KU alumni, playing in their best-of-3 series in the basketball tournament. Game 2 will be at Lee Arena, June 22nd. And spoiler alert, folks, we're going to have some tickets to give away for that game at Lee Arena here in the coming days. So be listening if you would like to go to Lee Arena and see some basketball tournament action. We'll be giving away some tickets. But anyway, JHX Hoops announced an addition to their roster today. It's a player who is not a KU alumni, but he's very familiar with Lee Arena. He played for JHX Hoops in last year's TBT. It's former Washburn-Ichabod Jacob Hanna, the Mays High product, who spent his final season of eligibility with Washburn and helped them win the Central Region and reach the Final Four 2 seasons ago after transferring from the University of Illinois Springfield. last year, as I mentioned, played for JHX Hoops at the TBT. He's going to suit up again for JHX Hoops this year, and will be playing at Lee Arena, where he never lost a game. Washburn was undefeated at home in Jacob Hanna's lone season as an Ichabod. So another reason to get out to Lee Arena and see TBT. Obviously, check out the K-State KU alumni, but a Washburn standout as well. Jacob Hanna is going to play for JHX Hoops. Next headline, Spencer.
Yeah, first headline for me, Kansas State and Casey Alexander. They have landed a 4-star small forward from the class of 2027. Cameron Cooper, the 4-star small forward from the class of 2027, committed to K-State. Earlier on today, the rising senior from Bishop Gorman High in Vegas chose the Wildcats over TCU, Wichita State, UNLV, and Utah Tech. I'm kind of not surprised he chose K-State after learning that he is the son of new Kansas State assistant coach John Cooper. He is the number 144th player in the class of 2027.
Yeah, that certainly adds to it, but how refreshing it is to be talking about a high school commit to K-State this early in the process.
A 4-star.
Yeah, and again, the familial connection is very nice, but just, again, another way in which this approach stands in the starkest possible contrast to what Kansas State basketball was under Jerome Tang, particularly the last couple of seasons, to hone in on a high school prospect, put in the legwork to recruit them, and try and build a foundation for a program. Because that's how you do it. You do it with guys who play for your program for multiple years. And in an ideal world, high school freshmen will be in your program for multiple years. So, again, it just really stands out in that way that K-State would pull in a high school recruit for next year's class this early, when sort of felt like when K-State was recruiting under Tang, like especially last year, they weren't recruiting any high school kids. They just totally ignored that high school class, and that was then, and this is now, and that's a really positive thing for K-State basketball. We're going to go ahead because we're short on time today, and there are not a ton of headlines anyhow. Let's go ahead and get to our World Cup roundup, because we would be remiss if we did not mention the World Cup action such as it was from last night. So, Spencer, I know you figured out how to make it work, the theme on yesterday's show. I was listening on the drive, and it took you a second to fired it up.
Wide for some soccer!
There it is. The World Cup roundup on 580 Sports Talk. So we're out. Team USA is out. They lost to Belgium last night, 4-1. They got punked, man. Like I didn't watch the match live. Obviously, I was in transit down here to Frisco, but I did catch a portion of the replay. They were rerunning the match on FS1 last night, and I watched a portion of the replay because I wanted to see for myself if all of the mean things that people were saying on the internet was true, and they were. The U.S. went out sad.
Yeah.
Man, and they had zero juice. They never felt, even, they scored the tying goal. Malik Tillman tied the match at 1 with a free kick goal late in the first half. And then Belgium scored to regain the lead 2 minutes later. And that was pretty much that. Like, it never looked like the U.S. was going to seriously threaten to tie the match again. Belgium scored a third thanks to a catastrophic defensive mistake by the United States and their goalkeeper, Matt Freese, in the 59th minute. And then Romelu Lukaku, brought on as a sub late, scored a fourth goal. And Belgium celebrated by mimicking what they call the Trump dance. And, boy, we deserved that, didn't we? I think we kind of had that coming.
Yep.
Gotta wear it. Sometimes you just gotta wear it. We had to wear that one last night. The The overreaction, of course, would be to say that the United States suffered from some sort of lack of concentration due to the controversy surrounding the rescinding of the red card or the rescinding of the suspension for their star striker, Folarin Balogun, who was a total non-factor in last night's game. And I'm not saying that to pick on Balogun. Everybody was a non-factor in last night's game. The only one who was a factor was Tim Ream, and not in a good way. He kept getting outrun and outjumped and totally outplayed from his center back spot. There will be a lot of takes, and a lot of them will be very bad about the United States being distracted or being cursed by the involvement of the alleged involvement or the claimed involvement of the president in getting that red card suspension overturned. Which I'm sure FIFA was thrilled, even if Trump did have a hand in that. I'm sure FIFA didn't really want him to say it out loud, like. Come on, we gotta have at least the appearance that we're acting independently here. Hey, but this is Donald Trump we're talking about. If he can take credit for it, he will take credit for it. Like, that is his entire life before his political career. That is his entire life. Donald Trump never saw anything ever that couldn't be improved in his mind by slapping his name on the side of it in gold. And, of course, he was going to do it with the World Cup in some form or fashion. And this was the form or fashion that he found. And he was more than eager to take credit for it, even if FIFA, I'm sure, would have just rather he kept his mouth shut about the whole thing. I don't think that's why the United States lost last night. I don't. I do think there's an element of the lights being a little too bright for this group. That is, I think, how you can explain how a team that played so well in their first 4 games, at least the first 3 games that mattered results-wise in the tournament, would all of a sudden not play well when the stakes got higher. I think they did wilt a little bit in the moment. I think they did find that the lights, to quote the famous Jarrett Allen meme, were brighter than expected in that round of 16 match. And so it is that both of these things end up being true, is that the United States has never been better at soccer. This is the best United States men's national team of my lifetime and yours. It's never been better. We've never had more good players, more athletic players. And it is also true that what that gets you as the United States is out in the round of 16. Just like the way it's always been, that's the ceiling. That's just the ceiling. Even the best of American soccer, this is kind of the ceiling for it. Maybe you catch a better matchup some year and you can make a quarterfinal, but this is the ceiling. Even at its best, this is the ceiling for American soccer. And so it goes. I think we can steal a line from the Mexican soccer fan who has this to say every year when they get knocked out of the World Cup. They say, jugamos como nunca, perdimos como siempre, which translates to, we played like never before, and we lost like always. And I think that that fits the United States as well. They in this tournament, they played like never before, and they lost like always, when they always do in the round of 16. So you can be heartened by that. You can be dismayed by that. However you want to look at it is however you want to look at it. But they got outclassed last night. They got to boot up their backside. That is for sure. And all we could do is just let the Belgians stun on us. They got us beat in the waffle game, and they got us beat in soccer. What are you going to do? We'll take a break. We'll come back. Also, Argentina beat Egypt today 3-2. That was an incredible match. And Switzerland and Colombia are playing right now. I haven't seen a score, but they're playing right now to finish up the round of 16. That's your World Cup roundup. We'll take a break, come back with a final word right after this. Wrapping up and walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk live from the Star in Frisco, Texas at Big 12 Football Media Days. It's time for the final word. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
Final word for me. We got this news this morning. We've been talking about it on the show a little bit about Brett Yormark announcing that Big 12 and Monster Energy have come to an agreement to have Monster Energy be the title sponsor of the regular seasons for Big 12 football and men's and women's basketball. This is kind of quirky, right? Michael Swain talked about it, about teams with different partnerships, but I got to give it to Brett Yormark for thinking outside the box. And in the way that we are in right now in college sports and how things are going, you got to find a way to get a leg up, and you get your member institutions $1 million, and you can get 4 every year for this multi-year partnership. I got to give it to Brett Yormark. I don't know how it's all going to work out. I don't know what it's going to look like to see a Big 12 Monster Energy logo on Allen Fieldhouse's court, but got to give it to Brett Yormark for giving his member schools $1 million.
Final word for me today. I think Brett Yormark's approach to discussing the Brendan Sorsby saga, which was to not discuss the Brendan Sorsby saga, was ultimately the right move. I've seen some criticism in some corners, some criticism that suggested I don't know that he should have expected that he was just going to take nothing but questions about the Monster Energy partnership today. He had to know that he was going to get Brendan Sorsby questions, and I do think he knew he was going to get Brendan Sorsby questions. And he was prepared to answer those questions by declaring it a dead issue, by saying today our focus is on the upcoming season. And you know who's not going to be a part of that upcoming season? Brendan Sorsby. I think that for Brett Yormark's case, I think he is right to feel as though the conference did what it had to do to protect its right to enforce its own rules and also to stand up for college sports and its ability to enforce its own rules. I understand that there's still going to be some upset Texas Tech fans about it, and some of those fans are here under the guise of media playing the homer card a little bit, but I think Brett Yormark shutting it down was the right thing to do, to say this is a dead issue for us. We're moving forward. If it's not a dead issue for the Texas Tech fan, that's that fan's problem. We'll be back tomorrow from 3 until 5:30. We'll have KU and K-State guests throughout the day. Day 2 of Big 12 Football Media Days. Royals baseball from New York coming up next. Royals and Mets. For Spencer, I'm Dan. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.